I do.
Hello, this is Jack Olmstead. I'm with GMO Free News. Welcome to another edition of our continuing series on the Flint River crisis. Today I'll be interviewing Siddhartha Roy, a PhD student and graduate researcher in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Virginia Tech. Thanks so much for taking a little bit of your day and spending it with us, Siddhartha. And you like to go by Sid, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jack. It's a delight to be here.
Give us a sense of your background and how you got involved in the Flint water crisis.
I'm a PhD student at Virginia Tech, where I work with Dr. Marc Edwards, who led the Flint water crisis, the whole project. And I've been here 3 years. This is my 4th year as a graduate student. So I'm working towards my PhD. And my research is completely different. I look at corrosion issues, but in copper, in plumbing systems. So the Flint water crisis was kind of, so initially what happened was, I could start from the beginning, when EPA's Miguel del Toro was looking at Leanne Walters' house, and he collaborated with Marc Edwards to, do some sampling.
Can you give us a date on when this happened?
This was probably mid-April or end April, around this point.
Okay.
And so, Miguel and Marc, worked together to coordinate the sampling, and we got the bottles back. And the results were really shocking, right? I'm sure you've heard these numbers that, 15 is EPA's action level, and the numbers in Leanne's house were on average 2,000, and 5,000 is hazardous level, and one of her samples actually went up to 13,000. So we were hearing, we have regular group meetings, and Marc brought this up, in April, or I think early May, something along that lines.
When you say group meetings, who's the group?
So Marc has a very big research group that, mostly comprises of PhD students, but also a lot of research scientists. So it's like we have a group meeting like once every 2 weeks where we talk about everyone's research and what's going on. So,
and is this a physical group, or is it also an online group where people come in with conference calls and Skype?
It's mostly, everyone is on campus, live and do work in Blacksburg. So yeah, we meet physically in a conference room and go around, talk about any updates that we might have.
And how many people are in this group?
It's a big group. At least 15 to 20 people. You have 8 to 10 PhD students, a lot of undergrads working for these students, 3 or 4 research scientists, Marc himself. So yeah, it's a pretty big research group.
Would this be considered a club?
Well, I guess every professor has his own club, so I guess you could call it that.
You don't get credit for this sort of thing, do you?
Oh no, this is just, everyone is working on different research projects. So you have to meet and kind of understand where everyone else is too, because a lot of our research is collaborative. We get information from other students and we give our results to them, and we help each other. So this is more of a get together and talk about research.
Okay, so that's really kind of the incubator of where the Flint water study was created.
Oh yes, the Flint water study was created at a pizza place in downtown Blacksburg. I'll get to that. But okay. So in one of these meetings, Marc talked about these very high levels and how he talked to Leanne Walters and had let her know that you shouldn't be using your water and all of these. And so we knew something was up, but I think it was early August when Miguel's EPA memo was leaked, and ACLU Michigan, Kurt Guyette did a great job in explaining what was going on. And then surprisingly, Miguel was taken off the case. So I think since Marc had been in touch with at least Leanne, I think, And with all this going on, he as a researcher and somebody who's been working in issues of lead contamination in cities across the US, he decided that perhaps it was necessary for all of us to actually jump in, because the voice of one of EPA's most respected lead scientists had been surprisingly silenced. So it was early August when we were out for lunch, and Mark said, "Okay, we are planning a trip to Flint to do some testing, and and since we have a lot of people on the ground, Leanne, Melissa, Kurt, people, Naira, Sharif, so all of these people had already been protesting for months, and they had been in touch with Mark. That's when I guess as a group we decided that not only we would go down there and test the water, but we would also send out 300 lead kits that we put together and sent. So we sent the lead kits around August 13 or 14 to people in Flint, and so it was around this time we were planning how to go about, getting our results out to the people when we do get them back. So it's two things were happening at the same time. One of them was we were sending out these lead kits that people could test their waters and send them back to us. And on the other hand, we were down in Flint testing waters not only for lead, but also for things like pathogens that could be growing because of the water in Flint not having any chlorine. And I'll get to that later if necessary. So I guess the website and the social media effort really happened because we realized that we'll have a lot of these data coming out pretty soon. And instead of waiting to reach out to news media and tell them about our results, we decided to launch a website, which is flintwaterstudy.org, where we started posting results as we got them, any analysis of those results, what do they mean, and how is that applicable to people. So the website was a big part of the online effort, but I think Facebook and Twitter, I'm not a big fan of social media. I think it's really distracting, but when you have a purpose, when you have a campaign to run, I call this a campaign because it was very necessary that the science that was coming out of Virginia Tech really got to the people and the legislators and the people in charge so that they could do something about the lead crisis. So and Facebook and Twitter were amazing in that they gave us direct access to people in Flint, to people who were actively protesting, and now they were contacting us, asking for more information, and actually using our data when they went out and protested somewhere. So I guess that's where the website and the whole of. So I come in, and Mark was like, so let's set up something good that people can access and understand. So one effort that we also made while putting the website together is whatever we would put up, we would ask people in Flint to actually read and tell us if that made sense, if it was clear to a lay person. So that's how the first few articles that you see on there, where we talk about Leanne's results or how there could be a real problem. Yeah, the thing that is up on the screen. All of these articles were put together in, I guess, 3-4 days, where we asked students who worked on this issue or have been looking at lead and copper issues to kind of put together a lay summary. And we took it from there.
Can you talk about this first post that you made on your website, August 23rd, 2015? This was kind of an introduction to the community of your team. Is that correct?
Yes. So the first post looked at, what kind of laid down the facts of the issue, primarily that Flint has been buying water from Detroit for almost half a century, and they made this switch, and immediately there were consequences that were being put out in media, things like water main breaks had increased, or people were complaining about smell, taste, odor issues, or they had boil water advisories. So and this was basically an introduction to how we thought. We had not done any testing at. The only thing we had tested was Leanne's home, and based on the results from Miguel's EPA memo, which pointed to an obvious lead problem because Flint wasn't practicing any corrosion control. So this was mostly introduction of what went wrong and how what we know now could possibly be indicative of a really big, potentially, big crisis, if you will. It wasn't a crisis then. The word crisis was used much later. But yeah, this was basically putting the science together of what we knew. And the good thing about this coming from us is the research group at Virginia Tech, under Marc Edwards, they've been looking at lead issues for a long time. At least, DC lead crisis happened early 2001, 2004. So this group, I think, has brought out some cutting edge research on how, problems in water chemistry can cause increased increased lead in water from either lead pipes. So that the diagram that you have up on the screen points to, potential sources from where lead could be coming. It could be lead pipes, it could be lead solder in old homes, it could be brass, which has some lead in it. So I guess we were kind of positioned in a good way to put together the information and put it online. So that's what the first post attempted to do.
In this post, at the end, you talk about, let's see here, the key issues of your research, right here, I believe.
Right, in bold, yes.
In bold. That's what you were hoping to achieve. Did you achieve that?
Yeah, I think we went above and beyond what we hoped to achieve, because water chemistry-wise, we knew that the Flint River was not at all an appropriate choice, and any amount of treatment that you could possibly give to the water would not be enough in preventing lead leaching. So when we set out to test if there are, high levels of lead, what about chlorine levels in the water, if TTHMs were in compliance after the city had spent, I think, $1.5 million on a new GAC filter. So yes, I think we achieved a lot more than what we set out to do.
Okay, why don't we just let me bring the zoom down. Why don't we just go through some of these posts? Here's
Sure.
a post on the 23rd. Is it the same day? Yeah, 23rd. So you made two posts on the 23rd.
Right. So we planned the first few because August 23 is when all of our lead kits were out and we would be getting those back, and we already had made a trip to Flint. So we were trying to get up to speed on where we were in the research. So that's why I think you see 4 or 5 posts made in a very short time.
Now, these are the key words that people can search for the articles under, like drinking water, Flint water.
Yeah, I guess we started off with keywords, but then there was so much work that I didn't bother making keywords anymore, so you wouldn't see them in a lot of the posts. But you could use the search option and go look for specific things.
I see. So you don't have particular categories where people can hone in on various issues.
I mean, it's not really, but if you just keep going down, I guess it's just a bunch of articles. You could get a nice sense of what was going on.
Okay. I'm just thinking about the researcher out there that's trying to, again, hone in on particular aspects of this story, because you can go in lots of different directions. If they're just looking at one thing and they want to bring up articles that pertain to that particular issue, there isn't like a keyword search. You'd have to do a word search on what pops up in the various articles. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Here's an article here on the 24th. So this is the next day. Hazardous waste levels of lead found in Flint households.
Yeah. So this is, this relates to the testing that we did way back in April with Miguel. And this was what was essentially in Miguel's EPA memo about Leanne's lead findings. So this was just to pinpoint that we potentially have a huge issue at hand, and we put up the results on the web.
And did you create this graph here, sample results, courtesy of Virginia Tech? I guess you did.
This was from so Miguel did this, I think, or the samples were processed here. So Leanne collected the samples and sent them to us. So the data came from us, but I don't know if Marc made these or Miguel made these, but this is from Miguel's memo.
From his memo.
Right.
I see. Okay. Before we go into other articles, why don't we just talk about what you have on the menu at the top of the page?
Sure.
You've got home, you've got, well, we'll get to articles in the press. Here you've got about. You got an about section.
Right. So this mostly is, there are 2 pages in here. One was who we are and what our study aims are and what we aim to achieve and why are we doing this. And that we would be open and ethical at all points. So just a summary of the people and what our goals were as a research team, going into Flint and looking at what was happening. So that was page 1. And the second page.
Well, let me just talk about this. You were the communication director for the Flint water study. Mm-hmm. So what did you do as a communication director?
Lots of things, I guess. First off, all the research articles on the website, all the public health messaging that went out, it went out through me. So Marc and I wrote a lot of the content together, trying to ensure that the science communication was accurate and easy to understand. That was a huge part. In addition, with Facebook and Twitter, we would be posting like every few hours with research updates or articles in the press, and you'd receive questions from people in Flint about specific things what should I do with this, what should I do with that. Later on, when we had tested more than 270 homes, we were actually going out and calling people and telling them the results and that they shouldn't be using their water. So Anurag was another grad student, and we called up a lot of these people and talked to them and explained the results to them so that they knew what was going on and they could take protective measures to protect themselves and their family. So I guess a whole host of things. Communications director is a broad term, I guess.
It sounds like a full-time job.
Yes, considering you have 2 classes, you have your own research, you're teaching a class, plus you're doing this. At some point, I think many of us were spending, I guess, weeks, just a lot of 15, 16 hours on this every day. So
15,
it was
16 hours a day. Where's you have to sleep, at least 4 hours a day, and then you got 4 hours for what?
Well, do your assignments, do your homework.
Do your homework and your assignments. So you didn't get much sleep during this period of time.
Yes, I guess. For not a long time, but a month maybe, but yeah.
I know that you got a research grant. National Science Foundation gave you $50,000. Did you get money from any other sources? When you went from Virginia Tech to Flint, who paid for transportation? Where did you stay? Who provided meals? How did that all work out?
So initially it was all a volunteer effort. So, all the money that went into the sampling, the 300 kits, the trips, the analysis of these samples, all of this was coming out of Dr. Edwards' discretionary funding. So NSF happened, I think, sometime in mid-September. So
what is the Edwards discretionary funding?
That is, so when professors apply for grants, they get money and they spend it on research. But when professors go out and do consulting, the money that comes is the professors and they can do whatever they like with it. So Marc spends it on research. So that is what I mean when I say discretionary funding. It was his own money.
So he does research as a college professor for various institutions or municipalities under the flag of the university. The university gets the money for his consulting, and then he gets a piece of it. That how it works, and then the university gets a portion of it.
You know, with research grants, that's what happens. So when you apply to National Science Foundation, when you apply to other organizations, the university gets a cut of what comes back. But I'm not so sure about how the consulting thing works. So maybe you could ask Marc. I would not be the right person to answer that question.
Anyway, the money was flowing, and it was coming through Marc.
Right. So I think by the time NSF happened, we already had spent about $40,000 to $50,000 on the sampling, analysis, travel, and all of that together.
How much was one kit?
That's a question. That's a good question. So there were 3 bottles, and analyzing each takes, I don't know, $10, $15. So yeah, I don't know. I can give you the aggregate number, which was around 40, 50K for everything, but I would not be able to tell you. At least $40, $50 per kit. Yes.
$40, $50 per kit, and that's including the analysis of the water sample, and I guess the postage of.
Sure.
Was it postage, or did somebody just drive a truck, or?
It was all postage. It was coming back via UPS. Yes.
So you're getting 270 boxes, on a regular base, just kind of Christmas every day for a week.
It was amazing. I mean, we sent out 300 and hoping, maybe a third would come back. But in 3 weeks, every third day, we would have like a huge pile of boxes waiting for us. And so, everyone, undergrads, grad students would come in and work together on making the kits ready for analysis. So every weekend, our lab would be full. So it was quite amazing watching, so many, young people just, working tirelessly because they believed something was wrong, and our efforts and the urgency with which these need to be addressed. So they were working towards it.
Now you've got pictures of the young people working the weekend hours. They worked around the clock, didn't they? 24 hours?
Well, I guess so. Immediately, so for example, if we would get 50 kits on Friday, right? So we would send out an email, people, anyone who's available, why don't you come in on Saturday? And then we would get the samples ready. And so, yes, the idea was as soon as we get the kits back, let's get the results, let's see what they mean, and put them online for people to see. Because at this point, August, September, people had been drinking this water for at least 15 months. So for all of us, it was like, this is urgent. So let's work towards it as soon as we all possibly can.
You didn't know if you were going to find lead in the water or not.
No, we did not. But I think.
What was the urgency then?
The urgency was the first So initially, when we sent the kits out, we got 24 back in the first batch, and more than half of them were over 15. There was one maybe there was 60 or 70. So immediately we felt that, if this is how things are looking, there's a good chance that the samples that we get later on would also tell a similar story. So the urgency was created after we analyzed the first few kits that we got back.
And where did you post the information? You said you wanted to get the information online as soon as possible.
So everything about the results went on this website, flintwaterstudy.org.
On flintwaterstudy.org.
If you go to information for Flint residents, the third tab, there is lead testing results for
frequently asked questions.
No, the first one, lead testing results.
Okay, here we are.
So right, so this we were updating this with results as soon as we started getting them. So first 24 kits arrived, so then we had the results for 24 kits, and then as more samples started coming in, we put the information together, and we found a widespread lead problem because all the citizen activists had done a great job of distributing these kits all over the city. So when we got these samples back, they were showing results from across the city, essentially. So yeah, this was the urgency, hence the results online.
Now, you say you worked with citizen scientists. How did you find these citizen scientists?
Well, citizen science means that you don't have to be a scientist to be don't have to have a PhD to do good science. When we say we worked with citizen scientists, what I mean is all those 277 kits that we got back, they were collected by homeowners themselves. So when Leanne, Claire, Kurt, all of them were working around the clock to get these kits out and get them back. So we actually had 277 citizens who followed the right EPA protocol on how to collect their samples and send those bottles back to us. So it's quite amazing when you think about it that all of these citizens, worked and collected samples, and did a great job. So hence the term citizen scientists.
Okay, so I went to your website. I went to your Facebook page, and you have photos on your Facebook page of your students, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Are they? Is this what we're talking about?
Yeah, that one. Yes.
Like right here. There you are.
Right.
Is this what you were getting back from Flint?
This was one of the 12. How many boxes did we send out? We sent out 12, 24. Yeah, this is 6 of like 24 boxes.
And so they come in large boxes. This says 8th box.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to keep everything numbered.
Right. We had to make sure that we had 300 kits, so we wanted to make sure all our data was accurate. So the kits were numbered, the bottles were numbered, and when these would be given out, people would fill out a form with their address and name and everything. So this was we had a lot of quality checks, some of which came from the citizens on how to effectively manage such a huge sample. So if you see on the small boxes inside the larger box, there are initials of people who actually wrote those while giving the samples back, just to be so that we could make sure that the name inside and the initial outside matched. So this was what I think the citizens came up with themselves, which is a great idea, and we would use that in all our future sampling. So it was just fantastic to see this in action.
This was a pretty large undertaking, and that everybody was working together. No disconsent. Everybody's working for the common good here, right?
It's such a wonderful coalition. I mean, if you go back to the pictures tab, I think there are pictures of Leanne, Melissa, these ones, people who worked around the clock, just driving around town, giving out these kits and then collecting them back and then shipping them back to us. So it was a pretty much full-time effort for a lot of these people.
What's this image right here? Is that?
This is not. So this, in addition to lead, our team was also looking at other microbial problems that could be occurring in Flint's water system. So this picture is one of our grad students, Emily, who's trying to analyze and see if there are instances of positive bacteria and E. coli that could be present in the water we collected from Flint. So these are samples from one of our first trips that we took to Flint.
I see. I was reading one of your posts, and actually it was the very first post, and it said, which I had not heard before, that the Flint River is used by the sewer treatment plant. So am I to assume that the Flint water was also had fecal matter mixed in with it from the sewer treatment plant, which is the sewage? So we're talking something like a toilet to tap, where people would flush their toilet, would get processed, go into the river, and then it would come back, and they'd be drinking it through their tap water.
Just to be clear, I mean, toilet to tap is a bad rep given to technology that's coming up. People are, understanding that water is getting rarer to obtain clean water. So historically, people have always been drinking, water that's been used, that's gone into sewage, being treated and got back. So for example, if you have a river and there's a town upstream and there's a town downstream, if a town is taking the water in and then treating it back into the river, and the town downstream is then using the same water. So we've always been doing this. With Flint, I'm not aware if the sewage was directly being put into the river. If that's the case, there's obviously a good likelihood that you might have fecal indicator bacteria in the river. But that's why you have treatment. That's why you treat the water, and you have, which the Flint treatment plant was trying to do, is ensure that these things, are removed and water meets, all these safe standards that the state and the federal government has set. So in the river, definitely there's a good chance, because it's a river that birds use, animals use. There's sewage come in, and you probably find a large amount of fecal indicator bacteria. The real question is, how about the water that's actually reaching people? That's what's important.
Well, isn't that why they had high TTHM levels, is because of the fecal matter and the bacteria?
Not the bacteria themselves, but you have what's called NOM, natural organic matter, that occurs in the river. So for example, if you have dead leaves or dying animals or any sort of organic matter that is in your source water, that is what reacts later on with the chlorine that you add to kill the bacteria. So you have NOM interacting with chlorine, and then you have TTHMs forming. So I mean, it wasn't a very good source of water, obviously.
And I actually went back to that first article. If you look up on your screen, let me see. I'm trying to find that spot. It's right around in here, right here, right there. The Flint River has significant sewage input.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Right there.
Right. So it's definitely
so significant sewage input. To me, seems like it's coming from the sewage treatment plant. And then up here it says high levels of chloroforms indicates likely fecal matter. And that's what they were trying to get rid of. Fecal bacteria right here.
Right.
Present in the Flint River.
Right.
So that analogy of toilet to tap could apply to the Flint River water.
Oh, definitely, like a lot of rivers across the U.S.
Like a lot of rivers across the U.S.
Yes.
Okay, I know we keep bouncing around here. Let's go back to your Facebook page with these. Are there any other pictures that you would like to talk about? Here's one.
Right.
These are the water samples.
These are samples that were collected on our first trip back to look at bacteria, and so we did find bacteria, fecal indicator, E. coli, and opportunistic pathogens that our team is still looking into from our fourth trip back. So these are some of the samples that if you keep going to the other pictures, you'll see the students who. So this is somebody filtering water to look at bacteria in it. So you have a lot of these grad students working on it.
These are the grad students working on it?
Yeah.
This is where you actually perform the tests?
This is one of the labs, yes.
One of the labs?
Mm-hmm.
people in the labs a closer look.
Right.
One of the grad students.
And so Emily was, so this is Emily Garner, who is a PhD student and a microbiologist. So she was in charge of coordinating how samples were collected and then shipped back overnight from Flint when we were down there to make sure that, all the bacteria, whatever we're trying to test, do not die by the time they get to the lab. So she, was wonderful and oversaw the whole thing.
When you say she was wonderful, it sounded like she put in a lot of time on this.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, the first Flint trip, I think we left on a Sunday or a Saturday. So yeah, she was working on the weekend, all these hours to put together bottles and, these filters and everything that you would need, ice pack boxes that you would send back. So it was for a few months, this was like a very busy factory.
Now this is in August, so are you guys in school or are you in summer
We are in school. We are in school. We have classes and we're doing our own research. So we have full-time jobs at plus Flint.
Let's put in 16 hours in the Flint project. 16 hours a day, you said.
For a few weeks, yes.
For a few weeks. I mean, you laugh that off, but that's a lot of time.
I guess. I mean, I'm so happy I got to be a part of it in such a big way. So I have no regrets on and if you talk to any of the students, these are undergrads, all of them, working on a Saturday, putting acid in the water samples that came back from Flint. And, look at them. They're really, really happy and committed to a real life project where what you do could actually and has actually helped people in Flint.
Another undergrad?
She is now a grad student, so yeah.
Another
undergrad opening, yeah. These are the boxes. Another undergrad, Maggie. Anurag, so this guy, yeah, he called most of the people when we saw really high lead levels in homes. So we had 277 samples and over 70, I think, had really high lead problems. So all of their samples would be above 5 or some would be in the hundreds. So initially Anurag and I were calling people and we were really, we'd call some of the first few calls, if I remember, all of them were, elderly ladies in their 60s and 70s, and almost all of them were sick. So, and we would tell them, oh, listen, you have a really high lead problem, please.
What do you mean? These elderly people were sick?
The first 6 I called, they were sick in some form.
What do you mean by sick?
They would just tell us, can you please call us back? I'm really sick, or it could just be age. I did not ask specifically what sickness they had or if it was due to the water. Let me make that clear. But
well, nobody wants to draw those parallels that their sickness what came from the water, obviously. But we just know that they were sick. But the first 6 people that you called, which are elderly, they were sick.
Right, that is correct.
So that's kind of odd.
That was kind of odd, and it was worrying because not only were they sick, but they were also, unfortunately, financially not well off. So when we would tell them, oh, please get a water filter. And I remember this clearly. I asked this woman, please get a filter. And she said, okay, how much does a filter cost? And I said, $40. And she went, well, I don't have $40. I'll have $40 in October when I will be able to buy a filter. And we did not know what to do. We were just, we had this information and we were hoping to tell people, please take care of yourself. And we were, and so I guess it was hard and emotional for many of those
calls. So here you got elderly people, fixed incomes, you're calling them up and you're saying, basically, don't drink the water because bad things can happen to you. You could get sick from drinking the water. And they're saying, well, I am sick and I don't have the money to buy the filter. So I'm going to have to continue to consume the water until I can afford the filter.
I think, no, I mean, we couldn't just leave them there. So again, it's a balancing act. So with lead, flushing based on our results helps. So we would say, okay, you can flush for 5 minutes and then you drink that water. Doesn't mean that the danger is gone, obviously, but it's one of those safety measures you can take to reduce exposure. So we tell people that.
And hope for the best.
It was really hard. I mean, we didn't know what to do, because we were hoping we were. I mean, here you have people paying such high water bills, drinking water that is
When
not
you say high, when you say high water bills, what are you talking about? What's a high water bill?
Flint's water bill on average was $140 a month. If you talk to Melissa, she has at one point paid $800 for 2 months worth of water that she doesn't drink. So, and if for comparison, $140 a month is higher than what people pay in Las Vegas. So it's, if you could talk to people in other towns, $60, $70 a month is acceptable, but you have a very poor town paying very high water bills where most people cannot just afford to pay the bill. So these numbers are pretty high.
But we also have to say that other things are tacked on to the water bill. It's not just the water. It's, let's pay for infrastructure, let's pay for pensions, let's pay for, they could put in a lot of things onto the water bill because people have to pay it. Is that right? It's not just water. It can be a lot of other
ideally it's just water and sewage.
Well, that's ideally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at how specifically if people are piggybacking other things onto their water bill, but my expectation, at least my knowledge so far, has been that it's not about Flint, but about water bills in general. It's just about water and sewer.
Really, in your experience at this point in time, the water bill is just focused on water delivery and usage and sewage,
and hopefully some part where when to be honest, I haven't looked at it, but I would hope, and I could be, maybe I'm wrong, that a water bill is for water, sewer, and any money that goes into upgrading the water infrastructure, and nothing except that. I don't know if cities are following it or if they're not following it, but that's what a water bill should be, right?
That's what it should be. And I think it's more because I listened to a presentation that Bob Bocox gave to the people of Flint. And in his presentation, at the very beginning, he said that the water bill has become a source for revenue stream for other city projects where they can't raise money for certain things. They'll throw it into the water bill. We can't pay for a dog catcher, we'll throw it into the water bill. They figure out a way of making it connected to the water bill. So the water bill becomes, this source of income for a variety of project or it funds a variety of things within the city. So the bill is just a way for people to get people to pay, because they can come and they can turn off your water. Now, when people of Flint get their waters shut off, they're hit with a $400 reconnection fee. $400 seems pretty extravagant to get your water turned on, especially if you've got elderly people, people that don't have the means to come up with that. So
that's just wrong.
You know anything about that?
Not really.
I know we're getting away from science, and I think we really want to focus on science because you're part of the story here.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to just stay with the science because, as you say, you're sitting there calling up these people, you're giving them the data, and you hear on the other line, I can't afford $40 for a water filter. I can in October, and you're saying, well, your lead levels are high, so best case scenario, run your water for 5 minutes and then drink from it, and you hope that these elderly people that are sick already
Right.
can figure that out. 5 minutes. How do you do it? Did you get a watch? By your faucet? I mean, a lot of elderly just kind of, you know, they've been getting their water from the tap for 60 years and they're going to continue doing it. I mean, you're just a voice on the phone telling them to do something that, you know, they don't really want. And maybe they're depressed. Maybe it's like, I don't care. I don't know. So anyway, your story of, you know, focusing on the science, you know, ebbs into the personal lives that this science affects.
I think, I mean, you should put public health at the forefront of every, I mean, ideally I know economics comes in, politics comes in. I'm not saying that we can't talk about science in isolation. You cannot, because the science is about the water that people are drinking and they're getting sick. So there are obvious implications to everything that I say and what our results show. So I mean, I was shocked for at least a few weeks going into this. You know, we'd be working towards, we'd be putting out results, and we would not know if that was going to do anything. You know,
what do you mean by not do anything?
Well, the city and the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, they were putting out, you know, these press releases saying, "Oh, water's safe to drink. It meets federal standards."
Can you give us a time frame of when these press releases are going out?
Sure. I think so. The first, there were questions about the water as early as June and July of 2014, and I think MDQ commented on why these discolored water was. They gave some explanation, but the real public health question. So there are two aspects to this. One is the emails that we, you know, got via Freedom of Information Act requests, and which shows that there was email conversation as early as February that pointed to potential lead issues. But with the public information, all the press releases that came out, the one that stands out the most.
I'm on your website right now. Are we talking about this one right here? Freedom of Information Act.
Right. This is one of many, but there's a big PDF somewhere down below, I think, that.
Okay, I'm scrolling down. I'm trying to find right here. This is the PDF.
Not this one. Keep going. These are how the city of Flint, you know, lied and kind of changed their. Not these ones. If you could keep going.
I'm going.
Maybe going the other direction, I think.
Go up right now. Let's see. Let's look at the date.
This is September 16 or 17, I think. September 21.
2021.
Okay, let me.
Do I go up or down?
Okay, hold on. You go up, you go to page 1.
I will go to page 1.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to, when you're talking about something, I like to bring it up so that people, you know, could access it.
Right.
It's easy to talk about something, but let's just show them where they could get this information. Page 1, where on page 1?
I'm looking at it myself. Just a second.
Oh.
There's a huge PDF that says.
I'm on November the 6th right now.
Okay, this MDQ leaked. Okay, the post that says new Freedom of Information Act requests document answer our earlier question, where is the US EPA? This is October 19th.
October. So we're going to be down here. October 19th?
Right.
I think that's on page 2. October 4th. Oh no, 4th, 19th. We're going up. 18th. Right here.
Oh yeah, the
19th.
chronology. Yeah, okay. Go a little bit down. Yeah, this and the second PDF, the one that says chronology of MDQ emails.
Right here.
Right. So this one, has everything, all the press releases from MDQ and the emails that I talked about. So the one comment that MDQ made in July, immediately after the ACLU report about the EPA memo, was when MDQ said anyone concerned about lead in Flint can relax, because the water meets all state and federal standards. So this was just the beginning. I think when afterwards we released our results of high lead problems, we were called the research group that pulls the rabbit out of the hat, the rabbit being high lead in water, because we as a group.
Who said that you were the group that pulled rabbits out of the hat?
I think it's MDQ's Brad Werfel.
He is a communication director, isn't he?
He is MDQ's communications director. Yes. So if you look at the press release,
or we could say he's a spin doctor.
Well,
he spins the stories to fit their point of view.
I feel very sorry. Yeah,
that's what PR people do.
We hope they would tell you the truth, but that wasn't the case here at all.
But in that particular instance, he was saying that the Virginia Tech team, they had a history of pulling rabbits out of a hat.
Right, and that was an official press release that was sent out to Ron Fonger, I think, from the Flint Journal. So
I mean, I appreciate the imagery there, but why would somebody in a public position use that image in an official capacity, pulling a rabbit out of a hat and having students?
Right. I have no idea. I mean, you look, it's just a series of very unfortunate and even, scathing attacks, you could call them, that all these releases were. I mean,
so when your team heard that, what was the impact? Did you guys sit around, go to the pizza parlor and just kind of laugh about it? Or did you make you angry? It's like, we're going to get this guy. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, what was the mood?
It was both. I think we were, at least I was livid. I'm thinking, we have test results that are 5 times what these people claim to have collected, and all of them, are talking about we have a huge lead crisis. People act immediately. People's lives are at stake, and this guy just sitting there, telling everyone that Virginia Tech doesn't know what they're talking about. They did this in Washington, D.C., they did this everywhere else. And I mean, what was even worse, I think, was when Mona Hanna-Tisha, the pediatrician from Hurley, she came out with her results of actual blood lead levels of kids. And she showed clearly, without any doubt, that these kids in Flint, their blood lead levels had doubled, and in some zip codes where we found a high lead level in the water, the blood lead levels in these kids had tripled. This guy says, "Oh, she is irresponsible, and her actions are unfortunate," something like that. And all this is in official press releases and media reports. So I'm just sitting there, throughout this. Just my mouth is open all the time. I cannot wrap my head around what this guy is thinking or who is he representing, if not the people.
What does a livid scientist do? I mean, you're livid. I mean, what do you do? I mean,
Uh, I think no. We have, initially when he said that, we released a press release saying that we have tested lead in a lot of other cities, including Detroit, and we found that they were meeting the lead and copper rule. They were in compliance. So we have a history of doing this because that's one of our expertise. That's one of the areas we are experts in. So this is what we do, and all of everything. I mean, livid. At some point I had to let it go because I realized that this doesn't make any sense and I cannot waste my time thinking about it.
But how can you let it go? Because people's health is concerned. Not, and we're talking not people. We're talking about infants. We're talking about, pregnant women. We're talking about the elderly that you call on the phone that you have a personal connection with, and they're saying, "I'm sick. I can't afford the water filters." And we have this guy saying, "It's okay. There's no problem here. Move along."
So when I say let it go, I mean his idiotic comments. I don't mean the issue. So at this point, when our results were out, we actually traveled to Flint to talk to people. We didn't just sit in Blacksburg. So mid-September, when results from over 250 ohms were out, we were in Flint talking to them, doing big town hall meetings and giving out the public health advisory. So if this guy comes in and says that Virginia Tech is fanning political flames irresponsibly, it was making us angry. But at this point, the media was involved. They were covering the issue, and every day we would have 5 to 10 articles about this. So that was giving us hope. And I think what completely made my day was when a lot of these emails that we got via Freedom of Information Act requests. So, Marc was at the top of his game throughout this. He's a brilliant scientist, but I was just amazed at how wonderfully, he just put hours in trying to cover every detail. So when we say that these people knew about the issue, we are not just saying this because we heard it, but we have actual emails to prove it. So I think the emails kind of substantiated our position and helps us feel good that we are talking about an actual issue. And these people will take notice because at this point, Congressman Dan Kildee was involved, Senator Jim Ananich was involved, pediatricians were telling that we have a lead problem, and then the health department came out and declared outright a public health emergency. So this was a very short period amount of time. This was like 3 weeks within which our results came out, the doctor results came out, and the public health emergency was declared. So I was livid, but not for very long because action had been taken.
You said that Dr. Marc Edwards was at the top of his game. What's he like at the top of his game? What does that mean?
I think so. When I say that, what I mean is he is someone who has been fighting, these issues, especially in Washington D.C. His volunteer hours. For 15 years, he's volunteered his time. He's lost research funding. He's lost friends. But as a human being, he cares deeply about these issues, primarily of kids getting exposed to lead for no fault of their own. So this man has been fighting something for 15 long years. And with Flint, I think he could look at what all issues are happening simultaneously. So, I come in and if one of the grad students does an experiment showing that Flint water is worse than Detroit water, that is not enough. You have to go and sample in homes. When we find a lead problem, maybe that is not enough. We need, emails to look at what is actually going on behind the scenes. So, and then, putting out these results on the web, so writing articles every second day and putting these results out, and then using all of his past experience and just pushing for good scientific information to go out there and make an impact. So I think he was a brilliant leader in coordinating, okay, this is happening now, this is what we have to do next. This is happening now, this is what we should do now. So it was just an honor just to witness all of this happening.
Where's the team today?
They're all going in their lab, working on their experiments, and hoping to pass their exams that they have in a week. So yeah, everyone's here.
So they've gone back to their lives. Do they meet for pizza every week? Do they talk about this issue? I mean,
We
I
have a
know
meeting.
that
We have a meeting tomorrow.
I know that you stopped posting the press information right before Thanksgiving, and now we're between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we got the holidays, then we got the New Year. I mean, what does the New Year hold for the Virginia Tech Flint Water Study team?
I think there were different levels of responsibility on who was doing what. So for people who are doing experiments, the experiments have been very successful. They have shown what the intention was, so they can move on. People who are looking at, so we were in Flint right before the water switch back to Detroit, and we collected samples from hospitals and from homes to look at pathogens. So we have people who are analyzing those right now. So there are different levels of responsibility. So my role as a communications director is still on. It's not as frequent as it needs to be because a lot of action has already been taken by the state, by the city. We can push for justice, and we can, I'll continue to work, find time, to put together information on the website, on social media, because our website and our pages have become go-to sources for many people. So I'll continue to do that. But I think all these responsibilities that were given to us have been carried out, and what remains, we'll still do it. So yeah, we would be around for a long time, both from a research perspective and as human beings who are really concerned about the Flint issue.
Okay. Oh, before we wrap this up, and it sounded like you were wrapping this up, why don't you talk about the articles in the press? Because I found this to be a very valuable source as a journalist to put things in a time frame,
Right.
a timeline, and into perspective. Because here you've got lots of articles, and when I first saw it, I just saw the first, the first page, and I did not realize the depth of how far it went. And there's a lot of information here.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I mean, we're still scrolling down. We're still in October. I'm scrolling down. I mean, October was a very busy month for you guys.
September as well.
And September, we're going down. We're on the middle of September. And then this is August, July, June, April, January. Then you go back to 2014. Why didn't you go back to 2013 and 2010? And why not back to 1963? Why not go back to where, where do you believe this story actually started? The Flint River crisis, or the Flint River story, where did it actually begin? I see it beginning 1963, 50 years ago.
That because that's when Flint started buying water from Detroit? I mean, I don't have that background, so I would not be able to answer why or how things.
Well, I took your all of your work that you did, and I put it into a spreadsheet.
Right.
Right. Here's a spreadsheet that I created. It's more of a database, which makes it easier for me to find information, and I hope that will make it easier for other people. But right here, the Karenagi Water Authority Wikipedia site, which I found. I didn't know that it existed. And so here's their Wikipedia site. And so this is where they put the start of their water system, which is right here, as you can see, the background. 1963, they attempted to build a pipeline from Lake Huron, but it was shut down because of a profiteering scandal that derailed the pipeline. So the die was basically cast 50 years ago to build a pipeline to Flint to bypass the Detroit water system. And
I did not know that.
And over the years, it just accelerated until, well, you can read the Wikipedia site, and it gives a pretty good analogy of events. But this is the heart. This is where I feel it started over 50 years ago, and it started and ended 50 years ago in scandal. And so what happens today, 2015, we still have scandal.
True, yes.
And it's just like there's some forces that are trying to make this happen for some unknown reason, and for some unknown reason they just get slammed. They just get slammed. It's like if you're a religious person, you just feel that somebody doesn't want this to happen, so it's not going to happen. Anyway, that's where I saw. So anyway, looking at your timeline, which I thought was just an invaluable resource, I really commend you on your effort in pulling this together.
Thank you. Yeah.
Trying to find it. Because everybody has seemed, when I talk to them on these interviews, it's like, give me a time frame, give me a timeline of how things progressed, and this really, you know, especially here in September, where it just went nuts in terms of the national press you were getting, and the local press, and how this was just a hot topic.
I was amazed when we launched the website in mid-August. I had no idea, you know, how to reach out to the press or what to do. So I was, you know, just waving my hands in the water, hoping something happens. But I think since people have been protesting for months, when this went out, and you know, these activists reached out to the media, or maybe the media got hold of the website. After that, it was just, yeah, it's still I still have difficulty wrapping my head around the enormity of the whole thing.
So what are some of the highlight articles that really focuses in on the story?
Right. I think if you look at articles, so there are the local articles and the national ones.
Here we got the New York Times, October 2nd. Was that a big?
Not the October 2nd one, but there is a one at a later point, which had, so we made it to the New York Times front page. So that was with Leanne there. So it might be October 7th.
October 7th. So you've read all these articles, haven't you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So you kind of are like, got this all in your head.
It's mixed up now, but yeah.
But it's like you're the conductor.
Well, when you spend 16 hours just reading stuff about Flint, you tend to become a conductor.
So you saying around October the 7th?
I think so, yeah. Huffington Post. Okay, stay right there. Okay, 6.
There it is, right there. You're right, right here,
yes.
Right on the money.
There you go.
Right on the money. Right here, October the 7th.
This was on the front page on the web of New York Times, so it was
right
just
here.
Brilliant. Yes, it was. I think every major media that you could think about: the Huffington Post, the Guardian, NBC Nightly News, Al Jazeera, every possible. But to begin with, I think Michigan Radio and ACLU, of course, and the Flint Journal, they were really pushing at all different steps of the way. Now, we can argue about they should have covered more of what came out from the emails, and Michigan Radio did a lot more of that. But every day when you have 5 articles about Flint in 3 different outlets, which are the primary news sources in Flint, I was really happy at how hopefully it was reaching out to people who needed to know. So I think that was our biggest public education trumped everything else for us. At least people should know, or so that, and the media, I think, at least from a perspective that's coming from me, they did a decent job of making sure that happened.
So this article right here was a big deal. New York Times.
This one, yes, and there was the one from The Guardian, I think, which was October 6th, and there was an NPR piece on September 29, where MDQ said the EPA memo was the work of a rogue employee.
Okay, where are we? September 29th, you say?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, we're October. 29th. Oh, September. I got to get down here. October, September the 29th.
I think so. Yes.
And
it should be an NPR piece.
NPR, Michigan?
No, just simply NPR.
And it should be in bold, right?
In bold, because it's national, yes.
Because it's national, right here, the 29th.
There you go. Yeah, this was huge, yes.
And why do you say this was huge?
Because this was, I think, now from somebody sitting outside, it's difficult to perceive, what's happening on the ground or how are people taking it nationally. But this was the first national coverage, and I was following NPR's Facebook page, and at least 1,500 to 2,000 people, were talking about it within minutes, within hours. So the hope is that beyond the local media and local legislators and people in charge, this goes to as many people as possible to let people know that there is a crisis like this happening inside the United States, where people are fighting over clean water. So this was, NPR, and I'm a huge fan of NPR, so I guess this is biased, but I was really happy that NPR covered this. And it was also funny because MDQ here says that the report was the work of a rogue employee and Miguel is one of you nationally respected lead scientists, and he was called a rogue employee, so that was funny. But yeah,
I'm looking at the comments. So this article on the NPR website has generated 155 comments. So that's pretty good interaction with the community out there.
And that's just on the website. If you go to the Facebook page, I'm sure it's in the thousands.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, you look at Erin Brockovich's page when she talks about Flint. You look at NPR's page with this article. The last time I saw it, it at least had 1,500 likes or shares or something like that. So that's a huge number.
So Erin Brockovich, talk about Erin Brockovich. Did you get a selfie with Erin Brockovich, by the way?
I haven't met her.
Really? You didn't meet her? You're the
No,
communication director for the Flint water study.
Right. But how is that related to getting a selfie with Erin Brockovich?
I was just wondering. I mean, I know that everybody's very serious, but she's kind of a celebrity out there.
Oh yeah, she is. And I think she would have Facebook posts now and again about the Flint issue. And I know way back in January she worked with the residents initially. So, but I think it was good. Definitely good press, because when she says something, people tend to listen. So when she talked about the Flint issue and she highlighted all our results and the results from Hurley, and she put them on her page, it was getting thousands of views, which is always good if there is an important, serious issue at hand. So I was happy.
How about Bob Bocox? She brought Bob Bocox in.
Right. I have not had a chance to interact or learn more about. I know a little bit about his role and how he helped citizens, try to get, I believe, a lawsuit or something way back in January. But I don't know much about what he did.
So that was a bit before your time.
Right, before I came in. So yes.
Before you came up. Okay, so we've gone over the hour. I don't think I'm going to get the transcript that I was hoping for.
Sorry about that.
Well, that's life. I mean, that's how it works. Is there anything that you would like to talk about that we haven't covered? I know we kind of like popped around. I tried to keep it centered on your website. You know, it's very deep in terms of information. And I think it really accomplishes what you set out to do, which was to create a resource, suppository, not
A
suppository.
repository for everyone.
Yeah,
Yes.
for everybody, kind of a library so that they can come and get the right, we'll get information, get access to the information.
Exactly. I mean, I think the most, for me, the best part about being, you know, as a student, you hope to get a hold of, you know, the science, the research, and you hope someday you'll make an impact in the world. But for most of the students here who worked on this, I think their whole perspective of how they want to approach life and science and research has changed. I was talking to this one PhD student, William, who also worked on the Flint study briefly, and he said that, you know, he wants to be a professor when he graduates. And his idea of doing research was, oh, I want to include the public in every step of what I do. And so you look at people in Flint and people in DC as examples of, you know, intelligent people who are not scientists maybe, but who understand that an issue is important and can contribute in very meaningful ways. So for us, it was a little more personal because we not only got to do science with people, but we listened to them. We had meals with them. We made personal connections. I'm so happy Leanne calls me her friend. To understand that science doesn't operate in a vacuum, and as students, we have had not only, you know, we've applied our research and used science to quote unquote empower people. And one lady actually said that, you know, this data is so helpful. Now that I know that these are my lead levels, I'm empowered, you know, and that stays with you. So the personal connections you make, and to really feel that even as a student, you know, you had an impact, a real impact on a city of 100,000 people in some small way. That is, you know, that feels really good, and that's heartening. So for all of us, you know, here who made connections, who worked, and who now understand the world a little better, Flint, an unfortunate event, but it changed many lives.
And I guess for you, it changed your life for the good. For residents of Flint, not so good.
I guess I know. It's really tragic.
It's a tragic story, but it brings people together. It really shows how people can, in tragedy, come together and find some solace in working together, and just working because of the common good, not because of making money or some achievement or a gold star, but working because this is the right thing to do. So I know that Marc has really been fighting this fight 15 years. He started in Washington, D.C. When we did the interview with him, which somehow got lost into the Google archives, he constantly beat the drum that he was cynical. He's a cynic. And he really was skeptical about getting involved with this project at Flint because of his experience with Washington, D.C., where you put your heart, your soul into it. You bleed every day because of the stories of how this affects the human spirit, the people. Yet you're up against agencies, bureaucracy, officials, and they don't do the right thing. And people that are paid to protect human health aren't
Right. I
standing
mean,
up. They're not standing up. And those that are in
yeah,
the agencies like Miguel, they're dealt with. They're shown another room, another thing to do. So how does that play into to your feeling, to your sense of the story? I know you like that human connection, but then you got this reality where it's part of this political discussion of what to do now that you've got the data, now that you know that people were poisoned through no fault of their own. How does that work into your sense of the story?
I think, I mean, when I was reading the emails and getting a sense of what was going on, I'll just illustrate with an example because it that just stands out in my head. There are discussions of, oh, since Flint is moving to the pipeline next year, there is no need for additional testing of the water. Or, yeah, these are isolated cases of, and since some homes have lead pipes, I just, I mean, I was amazed that this focus on trying to meet the lead and copper rule, trying to follow the law, was seen as something more important than protecting kids, protecting elderly, protecting the people. So I still grapple with it. I mean, Marc teaches an ethics class that that the hope is when students listen to the DC case, listen to more case studies and more voices of the public and people who've fought in similar situations across the globe, they put the public's health first, and that's how they would operate. But you don't see that in at least the Flint example. It's just I just fail to understand how people, suspend their common sense, their moral agency on doing the job that they were given to do, and just, fight over and just use the rhetoric of, oh, we are in compliance, and that's all that counts. And I mean, what are laws for if not protecting people? And I know it's a political question. There are answers. People will tell. I am a hopeful cynic. I still like to believe that, although every example that you can point at will show the opposite. DC is where not one person has been fired. The class action lawsuit that was thrown out. But I want to be hopeful, and at least the Flint case has given me some hope that, if people have the information and they realize something is wrong, they'll fight, and hopefully that fight brings about good results, like it happened in Flint. It's not ideal, but it's a worldview that I would like to live with. I have to be hopeful if I want to accomplish anything or help anyone or help myself.
Thanks so much, Siddhartha, for spending your morning with me. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I think that's a good place to end it, on a high note. A hopeful cynic.
You always end a presentation or a talk with hope, because if you don't, I don't know where would you go from there. So I guess, yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure speaking with you.
Oh, and don't go away, because we can talk in the green room after this. And thanks, oops, I'll show my face on the screen. Thanks so much for tuning in today, and we will see you next time. Bye.